Everything in this video is for general information and educational purposes only. Nothing presented constitutes financial product advice, personal advice, or a recommendation to acquire or deal in any financial products. Any examples are illustrative only and should not be relied upon as indicators of future performance, as past performance is not a reliable indicator of future performance.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Just going to be doing a quick market update. So for those of you who have done the MM3 course that we offer at marketmastery.io, you would be familiar with what this four window is. For those who haven't, just a quick little introduction to this. This is the long-term aggravated VWAP indicator system that we use. And in this top corner up through here, we've got the yearly, we've got the quarterly, we've got the monthly, and we've got the weekly. So what each of these window quadrants represent is, in this one is the yearly VWAP, and that's this band through here that's developing at the moment. And when you see one of these solid boxes that come and appear and travel into the future from the left to the right, this is where the previous years closed off. So this is how we have this is what's called the previous levels. This is what's called the developing levels. So as we go through these, we can have a little bit of a look at the current state of the market. So where we're currently sitting on the yearly is we're sitting right on top of this developing yearly value area high band. So ideally, we don't really want price to accept back into this area, because if price does accept into this area down through here, we have a chance of retesting here and rotating back down towards the developing yearly VWAP and the developing yearly value area low. So that's when it gets into this state, it's called rotational, but when it's above it, it's called it's an imbalanced state. So it's imbalanced up, and it's trying to at the moment remain imbalanced up. So you can see today we've basically tested right off the very top of that. So it is giving it a bit of a go to have this sort of somewhat of an inverse head and shoulders pattern that's going in through here, but it's a little bit weak in this area through here. So at the same time, if we did come back down lower to put a proper right shoulder in, that would make sense. But as we move on, we'll find out some other significant levels of interest. But just looking at this at the moment, we're going to see that the yearly is in an imbalanced up state. So at the moment, we need to remain bullish. And that's just what we've observed just out of this window alone. Moving on to this top right quadrant, which is the quarterly, what we can now see is we've been imbalanced down off the developing. However, we're still remaining imbalanced up off the previous quarter. So that's this block here. That means that when this band over through this section that was being created through here finally closed off last quarter, up higher, finally closed off last quarter through here and through here, it extended out through time this way, and we can see that we've slightly just had a little bit of a front run currently off here. So this level through here, it still hasn't fully been hit. It can front run, it doesn't have to hit it. However, nonetheless, if it does come down and hit it, this is an area down through this area through here that if we are getting some of these higher time frame closes back above the previous quarterly value area high, that could be a really, really good buy opportunity if we are to remain in this imbalanced up state off the previous quarterly. But for now, where we're currently sitting, we can see that we have this breaker block through here. Each time that we've tried to push in it, it's squeezed us back out. So there is a fair bit of supply coming in. But if we do get acceptance in this developing quarterly value area low, we could see prices move higher. So at the moment, we're going to see that from this observation, from this window, we've been in an imbalanced down state. We've had a bit of a front run off the previous quarter, which I would have preferred it to hit, but nonetheless, if it does take off from here, the people who did want it to hit down through here, they're going to be left on the sideline, and they're going to have to look for a buy setup up higher. So at the moment, sitting right on this value area low, so any rejections out of here, we're likely to head back down towards these lows. If we do get some sort of acceptance through here, then we can move higher. One more thing to mention, I'll just bring it over quickly, is the fact that we also have no news until Wednesday. So we've got a fair bit of news that's going to be coming in this week. And because of that, there could be a little bit more supply added to the market as we get closer to these events, as people want to de-risk and ease off any open positions. But if we do get some good numbers come in, and we are still looking pretty good with price action sort of midweek and later in the week, this could be putting a little bit of a bottom in. So we'll move on to the monthly. Now this is one clear level at the moment, which is the previous month value area low. Okay, so we're looking at on the 4 hour, we go up to, say a daily or something, and I'll just convert this back to a monthly. So this indicator allows us to go in and change time frames, but generally I like to sort of keep the time frame set to, if I just jump out again, I'll always go the daily, on the yearly, 12-hour on the quarterly, 4-hour on the monthly, and on 30 minutes for the weekly. You can sort of go up and down a time frame off that, but I generally like to sort of keep them there. But nonetheless, we can see at the moment this previous month value area, low area, we're having quite a few wicks and sharp rejections out of it. So we need to see a really good, solid, clean daily close for some acceptance back inside this previous monthly level. But we'll just drop down and observe it how we normally would. And we can see at the moment that we are trying to get back up in there again. So the observation so far is we have been in balance down off the previous month. We've been in balance down as it was for a fair while the previous month was actually developing. Now that we've started a fresh monthly, each time supplies coming in, we are buying back up off the VWAP and trying to maintain this pressure. So this is called compression. We're trying to compress into this previous month value area low. So this area here is roughly this month and the last month. You can see this line that runs over through here. We've got the month before's value area low and this month's value area low. So we ideally want to see some strength push within here and put a little bit of acceptance in here, not just have these sharp rejections out each time. But nonetheless, it is compressing at the moment. So we'll at the moment we'll give it a bit of a tick that it is looking bullish. And just heading into the weekly. So each time you can see these time frames are expanding out further and further. So we also have the previous week and the week before's value area high. So it's been a bit of sideways action for the last 10 days or so. But what we can see here is we are balanced currently in the weekly, but we are getting some strong buybacks like the monthly off the VWAP and a few deviations underneath that area. So at the moment, what I'm sort of just looking at here is we obviously have this this sort of high supply high that comes up through this area. That's where a lot of these people are offside. So we do push up there. A rejection from here could be a bit of a telltale that we do want to roll lower. But nonetheless, this is an observation that we have at the moment. We're rotational and we're just coming up to that previous weekly value area high at the moment. So we're just looking at this at the moment, and we use just the LTVW alone. What we'd be looking at is we can say the previous quarter value area high is a bit of a higher time frame line in the sand. Now, being such a high level, it doesn't necessarily mean like once we get single candle closures inside the level it's over, it could come all the way down here. It's not until we come back and give it a retest that it's fully accepted under here. But nonetheless, anything that looks good as a setup around the previous quarterly value area high, getting any reclaims back above this level, again, this could be a good opportunity to buy. And at the moment, main resistance, just looking at this alone, has been that previous monthly value area low and the month before's level. So sort of this area through here, we pushed through it a few times. So that is, showing that any sort of supply and any sort of from this point down here, like responsive selling from people trying to actually get back into this area is obviously getting weaker. So each time we're pushing up, we are being faced with less supply. So we move over now to the TPO. Similar to a little bit more advanced, but nonetheless, this is just a great way to be able to see anomalies and create composites, meaning that we can join multiple days, weeks, months, etc., sort of into these composite levels. What I've actually got set up through here is this is just a daily, and generally I'll just use it to keep profiles single. So this is each day, one of these profiles come in, it's just a single day. I've also got a daily one bottom left here, but this allows me just to create my composites. So each time it gets a little bit more messy because I've sort of got boxes running everywhere where I'm actually these rectangles, I'm creating these composites. But this way I'm able to clearly see any sort of internal anomalies going on within previous days, or also keeping an eye on things like points of control and that sort of thing from the composite anomalies. Over on this side, we've got the weekly, so this top right's weekly, and then we have a monthly down the bottom through here. So if we just start with going from the monthly and having a little bit of a look, this is a great way to set bias. It's what I sort of love about TPO. And we can see that if I reset this now, and I'll reset them all actually, we can see that we had over 50% overlapping value, which is this dark shaded gray blue area. And this is 1 month and the next month. So when it closed, we can merge these two together like so. Then what we can do is we have this peak that went up and then the next month went into an all-time high, that over 50% value. So we can put these two together as well. Now I get this fairly sort of even, fairly distributed profile at the moment, but if we expand it out and sort of just see how it's been going, we can see that we're getting a little bit of resistance each time at the 2-month value area low, and we're having a little bit of support here at this 2-month value area high. So we're just basically playing a bit of ping pong in between these two values at the moment, and it's really until we get a fair bit of time and space. So time and space is basically where we want to see something clear. We want to be able to see through the differences of when we expand these blocks. Then we can say we're most likely accepted to go for higher prices or accepted to go for lower prices. But if we just look at this at the moment, we're looking at from an anomaly sense and that sort of thing. There's not really a lot to it. You could say that there's a naked point of control of this 2-monthly, right down the bottom, basically where we took off for the latest all-time high. But we're nowhere near that at the moment, so it's not really of concern. The main thing that I'm getting from this at the moment is we're bracketing between these two. Therefore, I'm accepting the fact that there could just be, and there has been for days, more choppy price action. So I'm not looking at this sort of in a term of like, oh, we're here, let's buy now, or we're here, let's sell now. But instead, I'm just treating the lower time frames until these levels show some clear acceptance above or below as a place to do more intraday type trading, or just be patient and wait. So we'll look at the, we'll load up this weekly now, actually. Might have a quick look at this. So with this, this is how I've got the composites on here as well. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 days of overlapping. We've had a bit of a deviation with inside there. We've put a little bit of an equal low, not perfect, but there is, a little bit of liquidity that would be below these two. This opens up the hypothesis that the previous quarterly value area high may still get a little bit of a sweep. But we are rotational within the previous week, so it's a fresh week now. You can see that we're getting responsive selling coming in from this high at the moment, which also is confluent with tapping into the 2-month value area low. So straight away we can see that the supply is coming in. It makes it very clear compared to just looking at candlesticks as to where these sort of levels actually are on the chart. But going back to here now, we'll just have a look again at this. So we've bounced off this composite. We ideally want to see this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 day composite basically be re-accepted into this area. There's would have been Monday the 18th, so the week of. There's a naked point of control defending essentially a supply point, defending this whole area up through here. So nonetheless, this is going to be a point of interest if we do come back up and if we did see some sort of failed acceptance within here, could give us a little bit of information that price could be coming back down again towards whatever sort of profile structure we have here at the time. Sort of just looking into the future, but nonetheless, that's sort of a really clear level, called it around 115,000. And when we put in this, we can see at the moment that we've opened above last week's point of control. The shape of the profile is a little bit of a P shape, sorry, but it's fairly distributed between this week and last week. And again, we know that we've had choppy price action going from the last couple of weeks. So we can see that we've opened above the point of control, and then when we merge these two together, we open just below the 2-week point of control. So at the moment, we've found a little bit of strength, and we are pushing back up rotational towards, just looking at this, looking at that 112, call it 112,000 area. So that's the area that I would want to see on this higher time frame, some strength above, and ideally a weekly close above this area. So at least these 2 weeks here now act as a whole area of support. So we just jump through and we look at what the current TPO is on the daily without sort of looking at any composites or anything like that. We can see that we opened up within the previous day's profile. We've come down straight to the previous day value area low. We put this buy tail, more than 3 blocks vertical stacked in. We've pushed up, and at the moment we're getting a bit of price action above the previous day. We can also see that there's this bit of a thin spot with this value area high through here that we've been able to push up. But the anomalies that stand out here is we have this naked value area high, which comes in at around 112,500. And then we have this naked value area low down through here that comes in 109,900. So if we're just sort of looking at these sort of areas as to, a drawing liquidity or whatever, we have a little bit of an idea of exactly where we like to see price sort of on an intraday level reach towards. And at the moment, it would be easier to say the value area high. However, we just went over the higher time frames and we can actually see that we have the 2-month value area low through here. And there's a little bit of a gap in there, a bit of time and space. So could be coming into a little bit of rejection points. This is where it overrides. Like you can't just look at the daily and go, oh, it's going to reach down. I'm going to go for that. That would ideally be a good spot for it to go to. We just, a bit of a segue of talking about this value area high here specifically. We open up and we're going to look at this composite. So I'll just reset this to be able to show you what I've done through here. So we'll go reset profile. And we've got the overlapping. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 through that area there. Then we've got the value area high, but we also have this 1, 2, 3. So we merge them together. We merge and we'll leave it as that. So those 3 days, the value area high comes in roughly around Friday's value area high. So you can see how it's confluent that this composite over here is coming in confluent with that. But if we go to a more recency here, so we've got this profile overlapping, this profile, this one, and this one. And we can now see that we actually just swept up into this value area high, just up through here at the moment. So we are rotational within that. So it could be a bit of a rejection point locally here if it doesn't find strength to continue pushing up. If it does get above here, then I would say that would be looking more up towards that naked value area high that we've just picked out before. So that's sort of looking at the composites. We can also see that we have sort of a bit of internal structure that was built down here. So where this seller profile down through here, and we just merge these together like so. We'll keep those ones merged. We can see that it was basically built within a composite from way back here, which we had these ones. So you can see how when you put these composites together, they act as a bit of a point where price comes into them and rotates through them, but can get held within inside it. So similar to sort of order blocks and ranges and premium discount ranges and that sort of thing. It acts as a bit of an area that you want to see. You can start to have an expectation that there's probably going to be a little bit of value built in an area. So at the moment, we're within here. We're expecting to be rotational until we're proven otherwise. So at the moment, there's this 4 minutes 15 to go on this candle with a bit of a sell tail that's going in through there. And again, we just look back. So we can sort of always be looking back and forth at these. So we are still above the previous day's value area high. We have come in to fill out a little bit of this thin spot through here. So ideally, just looking at the currently the previous day's value area high is probably a point that I'd want to see hold moving forward from here. Any deviation below the point of control still sits there. It's pretty in alignment with yesterday's. I'd want to see this area through here hold, but at the moment it seems like it is selling off a little bit, obviously because we have just hit that composite value area high. So I don't want the video going too long, and I can do educational videos and that sort of thing on this. But what I do want to say is once you have some levels, some lines in the sand of interest and that sort of thing, you can just grab a naked chart. So, this would have just looked like this before. And then what you can do is you can come through and you can just start adding some of your levels of interest on here. So obviously a lot of these are my sort of TPO levels and VWAP as well. So the previous monthly value area low, the 6-day value area high, which was the composite we just spoke about. We just had that little bit of a rejection from that point there. But at the same time, what I would be looking at is that 2-week composite value area high. So that would be this one up here. So we could rotate, if we're going to remain rotational across the weekly, look at the higher time frame, a draw towards that high there, which is also perfectly confluent with this value area high. So you can see how you can start creating, if we're rotational towards the weekly's 2-week composite value area high, it lines up with the daily. There's a little bit of a thin spot of area to fill in up through here. So you can start to have a bit of an idea, and then obviously you can take your trades accordingly. And and hopefully get some good results out of that. So going back to this as well, though, this is why I've got all these levels. You can then drop down to a lower time frame. You can obviously see how price has reacted with a lot of these levels. The 2 month that tried to hold on through here. The 6 day didn't quite get the value area low touch through here. We do know that there's a naked value area low down through here, so it's not to say it couldn't reject and roll over from there. We are rotational within those high composites. We're rotational within. We've got the 2 month here, and we've got the 2 month here. That's why we're getting a lot of this bouncy sort of price action that's going through here. So when you start putting these levels in, you start having a little bit more of a framework that you can trade off to trade between. If you may have heard the term level to level trading, it's just trading between if this then that, if this then that, and that's the sort of trading that I that I do as well. So just sort of looking at the price action structure as well. Generally, something that I love to trade. One of my things I trade is I wait for an area where people have been in a lot of pain. So we can see if I just add a rectangle pretty much above this level through here. I'll just change this up. You can see that there would be a lot of offside traders. So you will see at times that price will come right up. So this 2 week SIVA push straight up into that level, and it could be a good rejection point or a good take profit point, because there's a lot of people through here that are going to be in pain. Not always. Sometimes it blasts through it. Obviously, we're looking at the structure now. We have this inverse head and shoulders sort of pattern going in. We have put a higher low in, so it's not just sort of it's there. I'm going to do that. I'll take profit. I'm going to observe what happens. I'm going to observe the flows. But at the same time, even though we haven't hit this previous quarterly value area high down here, which sort of has these equal lows over here. And I believe there's some, poor structure over here as well, goes down into some imbalances and whatnot. I would say that nonetheless, if this still wants to front run, but it also really wants to play some games with everybody, then this is an area where a lot of people have obviously, sold out their positions, they're offside. So this is similar to this. It'll be come down, tap into this area here, and we push back up and get a close into this area here. This could make for another opportunity. And this is sort of what I said before about you want to have time and space in things. This is a bit messy at the moment. Why I say that is we can see that we have, so let me adjust this just quickly. My pen tool works. You can see that we have this time and space through this area, this time and space through this area, but this here, it's not as clean. It doesn't have to be clean. It can be messy. It can just be doing this sort of compression ascending triangle stuff that we're sort of looking at here. But if we are to reject and roll, then either this point here would be a point that, again, would front run this level. So almost like, get people twice who are waiting for this level, or it can just steamroll straight through it. So that's sort of where I'm looking at internally, looking for sort of, pin bars, Morningstar reversals, etc., sort of setups in that respect. But at the same time, I feel like if we do come down and hit the previous quarterly value area high, and we get our wish, we actually get a push down through here, there is actually a chance that it would more likely be a deviation. It's not to say it won't just be one nice pin bar that everyone can get on board, but markets don't like to make things look clean. So the 5 week point of control is a level that's pretty clear cut down through the bottom here at the moment. So I just feel like that's sort of a level that could potentially come down, get a ping off that. And what that would be doing as well is once it's come down and gets a bounce off that, lots of people are now seeing this as resistance, and it does a bit of compression, it pushes up. We're getting lots of people offside. Lots of people who went long here are getting stopped out or have already been liquidated because they've gone heavy. And then obviously prices push back up from there. So I am always looking for like little games like that, but I'm using the TPOs and that sort of thing as a bit of a hypothesis. So one more thing that I did want to bring to attention is this is the rolling VWAP. So we've got the 90, the 30, and further down, we also have the 365-day rolling VWAP. Now, if we look back over here in February, which is earlier in the year, we actually did get this cross that happened with a similar fractal that's going on. So obviously we had at the time of the all-time high that went in up through here. And then we had this other more recent all-time high with this fractal that's gone in through here. and we have these bands that look like they're crossing. So obviously with seasonality and everyone's talking about, the fact that we're going to have a red month or could have a red month, could be a catalyst here that if it does want to be easy mode and just repeat where it comes back up, one more time, fake out this inverted head and shoulders, or even fuck around for a bit longer, put an even deeper, where I've said head and shoulder pattern in, and then reject when this crossover happens up through here, then it could roll over and we could look for something as deep as the 5 week point of control, or we could traverse a lot lower and spend a little bit more of the tail end of the year lower. But this is obviously just if this then that, and currently I'm not really looking at any of that. I'm aware of it. I'm aware that there could be a cross, but I feel like ultimate pain would be now that more and more people are actually talking about that crossover. This could be a chance where this inverted head and shoulders is as simple as it is, even if it plays a game down to this point through here, or even if this doesn't become an inverted head and shoulders, but it just wants to do something where it just comes and fakes out and just takes off. And on a higher time frame, it just looked like a beautiful big pin bar, but did quite aggressively. These are the kind of things I'm looking at. But for now, I just want to see some strength. I'm going to hopefully, this could be it. This inverted head and shoulders could be it, and then we can go and we can push up, and before we know it, we can get back above this level. So line in the sand is basically would be the 2 month CVAL. Obviously, all this price action, but I want to see us get back into that 2 month above, and the 2 month and 2 week CVAL down here is a line in the sand as well. So obviously, previous quarterly value area high is more of the we're good above here, and below here we start shitting the bed, and then obviously these two levels up through here. So this whole area sort of say, even just talking 114,000, once you see some price action, you see a bit of time and space and a bit of acceptance going on, then we're looking good for the higher prices. Then obviously we've got the 5 week CVAL, but we have that naked point of control as well. So, whether it builds like another sort of a range and we sort of do a step up thing, or whether we just blow through it, we'll have to see. But that's a bit of an update at the moment. Hopefully you got a little bit out of that. Any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments. And if you are interested in doing our course or becoming a part of our community, jump over to marketmastery.io. Thanks for watching, guys.